Hello.
Hey, buddy.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here. I wanted to just start off by saying that, I've been a fan for a long time, over 20 years now. I
Oh,
wanted to show you, first of all, my backdrop here.
it's insane, buddy.
So I've
Thank
got,
you.
all of the
Thank,
records on vinyl, the CDs, merch,
wow.
going a long time. So thank you. I can remember me and my best friend, sitting in like this accounting class that we took in like sophomore or junior year and sharing the earbuds, one in mine, one in his, and listening to Empiricism, which was the most recent record that had come out at the time. And I've been a fan ever since then. So I just wanted to thank you for your music.
Thank you, man. It's so, I know, I've just done another interview, and the feedback is, it's amazing. Thank you, guys. I thank you. It's fantastic to hear that you enjoy what we are doing.
Yeah, definitely. Does it feel sort of strange sometimes? Because I mean, I consider you guys legends, of the scene,
Mm.
of this form of art. And, to hear 20 years, and all the records that have come out and what they've meant to people, does it seem strange to you sometimes to hear those descriptions of you and your music?
On one side of it, the whole thing, I'm kind of used to that. I've been doing this my whole life since I
Yeah.
was 16, 17 years old. I started to tracking guitars and playing guitars and making songs. But then on the other side of it, it's I'm not sure if I'm able to really grasp it. The magnitude, the reach of the music, and all those things. Just your feedback is just wow. It's I don't know. I sometimes I get a little bit unsure what to say on those stuff, to be honest, because it's so amazing. It's kind of almost sometimes emotional, but I try to deal with it the best I can, of course. But I would say I'm a quite, down to earth country boy from the west coast of Norway, and I'm not that, social. I'm usually in my studio in the forest here and doing my stuff, and so it's the contrast between my day here in the studio doing my stuff and the world out there is quite huge, I would say sometimes, and especially traveling around doing huge festivals, meeting people, meeting fans and that stuff. It's mind-blowing. It's I get so many, you know, it's humbling. It's of course great, and it's very satisfying to get that kind of feedback. And I kind of also feel a little bit, privilege, being in a situation that I can do this for my living and travel around the world and see people and try nice food and all that. So it's indeed an adventure. It is.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I wanted to ask you also what it's like when you finish recording an album and you get to hold that physical release of that item in your hand, because I saw
Got
your
it today.
yeah, I saw your picture this morning, with the CD and the LP. So that's kind of what made me think about this, because I'm a historian. I'm a professor at a university here, and
Wow.
I'm writing I've written my first book, my dissertation, and I'm trying to get it published now. I'm going to do some revisions and publish it. And I've always thought about that day that for the first time I'm going to hold the book that I wrote in my hands physically,
Hmm.
and know what that feels like. So I was wondering what your perspective is as an artist. You've recorded an album and now you get to physically hold it in your hands. What is that like?
Yeah, again, I've done it a couple of times before, but each and every time it kind of marks, you know, it kind of is the I don't know. the physical confirmation that it's done, it's ready to fly out in the world in a
Yeah,
sense. It's
it's
not
real.
mine anymore. It's
Yeah,
not just mine anymore, if you get my point. So
yeah,
it's excitement. It's of course satisfaction because it's a lot of work behind it and all that stuff. So it always feels very good to get the copies and open up the first time and check it out. And my wife and the kids check it out as well, and maybe put it on a shelf or on a wall or something like that. It's a kind of like yeah. I mean, I'm that old, that I like physical things.
yeah. Me too. Me too.
I prefer to to have the things that I treasure in my life. I want to have a copy or a physical, yeah, bit of it or whatever it is. So yeah, I it's a really good feeling. It's a really good feeling.
Yeah. So to kind of turn to the music, I think that there's sort of a perception I picked up on, I think, in the fan base that definitely with Winter Thrice and True North, maybe going back to Erd, that the band has entered kind of a new peak era, that these albums are regarded really, really highly, comparable to the earliest albums. And I think Fall really much is in line with that, continues that streak. And so I was wondering how you perceive that. Do you feel like that's kind of the feedback that you're getting, and do you feel like you guys are as strong as ever?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I think it's something to do with, some things in life gets more difficult when aging and getting older and all stuff. I'm not that strong as I used to be back when I was in my 20s. But on the other hand, when doing this for such a long time and pushing, yeah, 48 now, pushing 50 soon, it's something with you get some kind of a relaxed attitude towards things, maybe in a different way, in a good way, I would say, because I don't stress out or freak out because of details anymore. I don't get fixation on things that doesn't really matter in the end of the day in the big scope of things. So at least for speaking for myself, I find it easier now to focus on when I'm writing music. I find it easier to focus on actually doing that, without any pressure or anything. I have my routine in that regard and stuff. So I don't know. It's just the whole thing feels to me at least much more relaxed and much more on the creative side of things. I can spend more energy on being creative rather than spending a lot of energy on things that troublesome equipment or traveling to a different country to record the album, or things like kind of stress you up a little bit and cost quite a lot. So so uh, so yeah, I think so. And of course something with, yeah, maturity and those things. But also I would like to say that I've spent the 10 last years, because I remember in the early days some of my frustration at times was that I felt that kind of distance to the fans in a way that I had a musical goal, a vision, but back in the first albums, we always had this barrier of what kind of studio did we have, how much money do we have to record this, what equipment do the studio have, and do the studio guy have a good or bad day at work? You depended on so many things in order to kind of meet the fans musically speaking. So for many, many years, or 10 years at least, I've spent quite a lot of time and money to build my own studio, and also try to, marry a little bit this producer's perspective into the fold, that I'm not only, a guitarist and writing lyrics and all that stuff, but I also try to bring in the producer's perspective. And I try to do that, more and more over there. So for example, for the new album, as well as with True North and the albums before, I spent shitloads of hours. One thing is writing the songs and all that, but also you spent a lot of time testing stuff in my studio, guitar sounds, FX, whatever it is. I'm trying things out in order to shape the sound and try to produce it way more. That being said, of course, Jens Bogren, who mixed the album, did a fantastic job. So, of course, together with him, though. But all credits to him for the amazing sound. But yeah, we deliver pretty well good demos for him so that he have some guidelines, you know. So he have a, I would, at least I hope we have a quite clear idea of what we want with each and every album. So yeah, we you know, I've been spending a lot of time and efforts to get a more firm grip on the productions for, yeah, the last 4 or 5 albums, I guess.
Yeah, I think it shows. I wanted to ask you about when you're composing, as a longtime fan, and I hear a new record like Fall, and there
Mm.
are moments where I think, I pick up a little bit of epic here, a little bit of the archaic chorus here. Um, do you have moments like that when you're composing where it's like, I want to bring a little bit of what we had going on there in, or that sounds too much like so and so,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I never kind of do that with other bands and other, if you ask me whatever band influenced me, I couldn't probably say one single band name. But yeah, I've always, had this idea about kind of there should be a red line through everything we do, there should be some entanglements and some kickbacks and stuff. Whether, I mean, on just an example, the Winter Tries album, if you see closely on that one, you will actually find the old domain cover, within in as a small detail. And that's just an example though, but also lyrically, but musically, I love to, to yeah, to bring some of the elements, some of the qualities, from past albums into the new music. Not by copying and pasting, but by trying to capture some of the, I don't know, notion, some of the vibe to it,
Right.
whatever that is. And so yeah, for me that is important, that you always want to take a step, at least I want, take a step further and broaden your horizon and climb another mountain and all that stuff, like forward leaning in terms of musical progression. But I also want to carry with me this backsack of music that we have back behind us, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I always try to try to find a balance between because my nightmare would be finding myself repeating myself doing the same thing over and over again. Then this to me wouldn't make sense. Then I would probably just quit to do something else, because for me music should be something that lives and evolves, basically just like a human being, a life.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I wanted to ask specifically about a Nordic anthem. It seems to me like maybe a little bit of an outlier in the Borknagar catalog. It's a little bit different musically, with sort of almost a tribal rhythm to it.
Mm.
And lyrically, it gets maybe a little bit more social than the nature and science topics that are more typical. So I was wondering who wrote the song, the music, the lyrics, and then after that, I'd like to talk a little bit about sort of the message in it as well.
Yeah, I mean the song is written by Lars actually,
Yeah.
and he also wrote the lyrics. But I did, me and Björn, of course, the drummer, but we did some heavy production, on that one. So as a starting point, that song was pretty much, a little bit along the line of Voices from True North. But we
Right.
kind of, when Voices was on volume 1, I would say that, Nordic Anthem is like volume 10. And, it's kind of much more saturated in production-wise, I would say, or ID-wise, or whatever I should say. But when it comes to the lyrics of that song, it's a bit more kind of connected to the real world, to the real situation, to things we see around wars and suppression and oppression, and things that happening in this world. And but to me it's kind of, and I've talked with this with Lars as well, and it's basically by default this is kind of a kind of freedom song. This is
Yeah.
rejecting all kinds of old, whatever it is, political or religious or whatever it is, that it's kind of along the lines, and that's has always been a very important aspect of the band lyrically for me, to have this free thinking standing in it kind of thing, that you should find your own thoughts. It's use your kind of I mean, don't mean it negatively, but we have a huge brain, so use brain, use your potential, the mental and all that stuff. But be free, find your own way and that stuff. So it's, to me, it's kind of it sounds a little bit cheesy maybe, but it's about, kind of freedom in a sense, to loosen yourself for these shackles to this whatever it is, conservatism or religious thoughts or political whatever, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if it's Nordic or not. It's not kind of geographical kind of limited or anything like that. I would say it's quite universally applicable. But yeah, that's roughly my. But also, we have always, with the music and lyrics we have done, we have always also kind of left the door open a little bit, because I think, I would love to invite the fans, the audience, whoever listened to the album, into the music. I don't feel really. I feel more like a musical adventurer rather than a musical entertainer, if you get my point. If there is a scale, something scale like that, I'm more on the adventurer kind of side of this scale. I find it much more, and that basically comes from my ideas as a music lover myself. I prefer music that I can kind of dive into, that I
Right.
can fly away with, that give me some food for the soul somehow, emotional or thought-wise, or whatever really. So we never in any way conclude in our music, or shut the door, or profess a special agenda or anything like that. But it's, of course, the foundation of the band is kind of a very kind of free thinking spirit,
Yeah.
that we are all free human beings, and life is an adventure, and go out, do whatever you want, kind of thing. So that's yeah, the basics behind it, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, I think that's a great sort of broad understanding of the topic there. I think that there will be people that might just kind of read the bare surface of it as maybe speaking specifically about like uncritical acceptance of religion, which is part of the song, but it seems like it goes beyond that, because gods can be anything, it can be political authorities, institutions, ideologies, whatever. And so I really like that explanation, because that's something that everybody, like you said, can identify with, right, to some kind of degree.
Yeah, and I think we had I think it was one of the songs on Urd. I think we had opening vocals on one of the songs. I should have remembered, but I don't at the moment. But we kind of open the songs with the lyrical phrase that, the gods are great, I'm the greatest.
Yeah, that's in on
And that
Imperial.
kind of boils down the essence, of the attitude we hold. I'm, people, you should believe or think, or whatever they want. We don't want to, again, we don't want to, conclude anything or profess anything in specific, and we don't, I firmly believe, and I always try to be very clear on this, that, for us, or for at least for me and for the band, music is above and beyond all this mundane, religious politics, whatever it is, really. I think that that's some of the quality with music, at least the music I'm doing, that, this gives you the chance to travel above and beyond and all that stuff, that we have to deal with daily. We can dream away, or we can fly away, we can dive into, the deep of something. I don't know. But it's more like we have this more open door philosophies, so to speak, in our music, that I rather want to, bring people into this musical adventure, and let them experience what it is and find their own values and reasons for doing that,
Yeah.
rather than being, some kind of monarch on a big, whatever, and hey, you guys, my slaves, come on. That is not our approach. That yeah, just to
Yeah.
make
Well,
cheesy way of saying it, but yeah.
no, I mean, that's what makes music transcendent. I like it when artists keep things more open to where people from all different backgrounds can find something in it rather than they just preach at you, you know, and that's
Yeah.
what you guys keep it open. So I appreciate that. I wanted to ask, I on listening to the new album, I was really blown away by Vortex's vocal performance. And I thought, man, this has got to rank up there, if not the best he's done, very close. But I feel like this could be the best performance that he's had. So I was wondering how you felt, you know, maybe in the studio or listening to the demos and stuff, hearing his performance on this record. What was your perception of that?
Yeah, I kind of I agree. I mean he have just on this new album, I think he have outdone himself, and he has been daring, and he has been pushing himself, and he has been, I would say, so dedicated. I mean, it's not that he have not been dedicated before, but this time around, I mean, he was so into the groove of the process, so to speak. And I remember we did most of the vocals here in my studio with a microphone in the corner there, and we kind of, you know, for as just an example, we did vocals for the Wild Lingers, this the second last song on the album, and you know, we by now we know what people kind of expect from Simon. You know, this typical Simon ICS Vortex vocals.
Mhm.
But on that song, we kind of decided, let's not, you know, take the safe route back home. Maybe let's try to do a little bit more challenging. We risk something. There is a chance, you know, something, you know, people won't like it and all that stuff. But we still had, you know, we did it kind of. So he did some vocal lines on that song in specific that is he have never done anything like that before. And I think, you know, that is kind of uh, it's just cool that he's kind of so on the experimental side of things, that is willing to push himself, even though, you know, we perfectly know what works when Simon doing vocal. We could then, you know, can done it easy for ourselves in that regard. But it's not way of our way of doing it. We you know, sometimes we need to, you know, take a little bit of a risk and challenge ourselves and the listeners a little bit, you know, and doing stuff a little bit outside, yeah, the box. So I think, you know, again, that is kind of the mentality of the band, and I think that is, I mean, that is the sole reason why I still do this, to be honest. I mean, the day I find myself going in circles or repeating myself, I would just quit. There is no reason for me to, you know, life is not static, and music should not be static either. So need to move forward, and with some risks sometimes. You know, that is life. You know, you have to take some chances sometimes.
Right. I wanted to ask you because I still have maybe five or so questions. Do we need to keep this tight at the 25 minutes, or do you think?
No. This is the last one for tonight. So
Okay.
as long as I have a voice, we can
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So I wanted to mention, you know, I think there are multiple elements that make Borknagar have this unique sound, and kind of building off of what I said about Vortex's vocal performance. I think one of those elements is that the band has just been blessed to have to work with probably the greatest array of vocal talents I think any metal band has ever had. Maybe Black Sabbath, you know, is the competition, right? But you know, Garn and Vortex and Wintersorg and Lars, you know, just an incredible array of vocalists. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, you know, it seems, I don't know if that's just a serendipitous thing. I mean, I'm sure you go out and try to get the best vocalist every time, right? But it seems like it's almost a serendipitous thing that every time you've just knocked it out of the park and got the best guy available, right? So how do you think that worked out?
You know, that's a hard question to. I mean, there is so many. I mean, it's a long, you know, it's a many years and so many, you know, um, what can I say? Crossroads and so many decisions, so many discussions, and so many this and that, you know, that have led to actually this. But yeah, you know, I don't know. Don't have a really good answer to it, but yes, it kind of in a sense have been coming by naturally in a sense. It just happened. I don't know. I mean, we started out with Garm back in the days, you know, with the first two albums, and and that kind of led to that. I remember when we actually mixed the second album, Old Domain, in Germany. We were sitting in a hotel room one evening, and he was like, "Yeah, I think this is it for me. I'm done with metal and stuff like that." I'm sure, cool, cool. And we kind of a very friendly manner kind of decided that. And by the way, I know one guy that maybe can jump in and do this for, and that was Simon.
Yeah.
And then the story is kind of known. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's I really don't know why, but it had just been the way things have been progressed and evolved.
Yeah.
Maybe the people I know, maybe the music I make. I mean, I think that maybe some of the explanation is that I think maybe that the way we what can I say, make music, how we think music and all that kind of gives sparks the vocalist in a sense. It makes there is a lot of interesting stuff going on musically wise that is not easy, but it's inspiring to lay vocals on stuff. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe give some resonance for paving the way in regards to vocals.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To be quite honest, I don't know. I'm kind of sitting here myself and like, wow, it's amazing because I fully agree. I think Simon and Lars is one of my absolute top vocalists in this world. I actually prefer Simon's vocal above Ozzy. I'm totally honest about it. I mean, I don't want to be cocky or anything like that. Ozzy is a legend, definitely, but so is Simon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel privileged. It has been awesome, and I feel very kind of musically satisfied with all this, the whole story of it, so to speak. But it has been a long and sometimes bumpy road, but here we are.
Right. Also about, I think another thing that makes your music unique is the melodies and both guitar and synth, keyboard. And so I was wondering, where do you think that comes from? I've noticed some sort of proggy sounding elements, here and there. Some things that even on a couple of songs on this record kind of vaguely reminded me of Wintersorg's project Waterclimb, which also has that same kind of proggy influence, not, in any great degree like on his project, but I was
Mm.
wondering if that's where you think, maybe some of the melodies that set Borknagar apart. Do you think those come from your background? You've mentioned listening to your father's progressive music. Do you think that's maybe where that comes from that makes sets your melodies apart?
Yeah, I think some of the reason, speaking about myself, yes, I think that, I grew up with, prog rock, Pink Floyd, Uriah Heep, and, all that stuff. He had a huge collection back in the day when I was a kid. And I still remember, walking in all these LPs and tapes and everything and listening to music. And he had catalog of all the music, the whole collection and stuff. So yeah, definitely. I think at least a love for music and I remember even back then, I remember this very kind of I just love like Pink Floyd, for example, that gives you this room that's a band with a door open, I would say. You can dive into it, you can dream away, you can, whatever it is, you can kind of find your place in this music. More than just entertainment or the bliss in the moment or that kind of thing. So I think that kind of have shaped me some, definitely. But also I think again, speaking about myself, when I entered the whole thing about being an active musician, I remember I had a guitar teacher for 2 evenings or something like that. He called my mom some days after, this is hopeless. There is no point in me trying to learn him to play guitar or something along those lines. And sure, guess. So I guess I had a little bit of an untraditional way into becoming a guitarist. To be honest, I've never really seen myself a guitarist. I'm not, I'm not as I don't people don't need I don't know. I'm more kind of a my making music is my craft rather than being a guitarist, if you get my point. I use guitar as the means to get there, and I use guitar to my tools and all that stuff. But I couldn't bother less, to be quite honest, about what brand and what kind of microphones or whatnot. Those things I don't really care as long as they sound good and I can make the sounds I want to make it. And I remember actually I got an acoustic guitar at some point when I was young, and I was remember, and this sounds weird maybe, but I was just listening to this acoustic guitar with my ear to the guitar to the woodwork, and listening to the resonance. There is something about this acoustic, this organic, this wooden sound that just I don't know, feels so home to me in a sense. You know, it feels like my when it comes to sound, that is my foundation in a way. So maybe a blend of all these things have, you know, have made it what it is. I guess I have a little bit of an untraditional way into the music as a guitarist. I have a quite special guitar style because I've never learned to play guitar like my school or
Mhm.
the you know the all the yeah the chords and but music theory is not, you know, I have no clue whatsoever. Of course by now I will learn the basic E and, you know, minor and all that stuff, but back when I started I was chasing the sound. I wasn't chasing the guitar or the role of being a guitarist, if you get my
Right.
point. And I think that maybe in the long run have made a little bit of a difference maybe. I don't know, but you know, it's maybe at some point in my when I retire, maybe I need to sit down and really, you know, find out what happened. But it's my way of doing stuff. I also had my father, you know, I don't know, but maybe it's something in the family, DNA or whatever. But my fa father was an architect,
Mhm.
and I lost him quite some years ago now. But it's so kind of cool because he had been drawing a lot of houses in the area and schools and stuff like that. And he has a very clear signature, a quite special signature as well. I can see it from a miles distance. Ah, my father had drawn this house.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Maybe we have something
Yeah,
special going. I don't know.
maybe. No, that's a great introspective answer. So I want to try to squeeze in uh I think three more questions. I mentioned Vintor Sorg. I was wondering if you have any plans to work with him again in the future on Cronian or on a cameo in Borknagar or anything like that in mind.
Yeah, you know, we don't have any concrete plans at this moment, but yes, Cronian is very much alive as an idea at least.
Okay.
We haven't been working on it for a while, but that's also the idea behind this band. I think that is a free that's a thing we do whenever we want to do it, and we do it the way we want to do it. There is no kind of commercial shackles on that one, and that was the kind of the sole purpose of it. It's our musical playground, so we have been talking about doing another album, but and I'm pretty sure it will be at some point, but when and how I don't know it at this point.
Okay.
But we have some stuff going, so at some point, and yeah, we have been talking about he coming to my studio to master some of his material and stuff. So we are still very good friends
Good.
and brothers in music, I would say.
Good. I also have his, they just reissued all of his albums on vinyl, so I've got all of those back there too. So I've been kicking myself because when you guys came to the United States a couple of years ago, I was about 4 to 5 hours drive through the mountains away, and it was February in Colorado, and I couldn't get there. And so I was wondering if there are any plans in the relatively near future to come to the United States again.
Oh yeah, we 24, I guess, will be basically European dates. We have a bunch of festivals, and we have most likely a tour, co-headline tour in Europe with a band, but it's not official yet, so I can't say much more about it. But it seems like it's all good and will be announced soon. So 24 is pretty much packed for us, but 25 we are looking into. I know our manager over there is already talking with some people, and things are happening as we speak.
Good.
But I don't know when, but hopefully in 25 we will get back over to the US, and we're also trying to get back to the South America, Latin America, and stuff. So there should be hopefully, because we love touring in the US and also South America and Latin America. It's always it's a really it's a yeah, it's always been great for us. So I really hope we can get back.
Well, that's great to hear that it hopefully won't be a long time. I'm in Texas now for my new job, so hopefully there'll be a Texas date
Yeah,
in there somewhere. We've got a few big cities, so
yeah.
hopefully that works out. Um, Here's a couple of questions that you don't have to answer or put on record if you don't want to, but I noticed that, and I know you've been asked about this before, that the lyrics for the self-title have never been released. I don't want you to tell me any specific details that you don't want to, but I was wondering if you would reveal like the themes of the record, if there's anything in general that it talks about. Because I've always wondered, does it avoid, sort of the cliche black metal lyrics, that you guys have kind of always avoided, even back then? Were you talking about nature and stuff back then, or what were the themes?
Yeah, I've always done that. I even my first band, Molested, the lyrical themes there was nature and forces of nature in a different kind of angle maybe, or different approach. But yes, the debut album, and actually it's not really entirely true, because of the new version of the album, the new deluxe version of the album. You will find the lyrics there. It's
Yeah.
well hidden though, but if you kind of check it out properly, you will see that it's vaguely written on the LP sleeves or something like that.
I'm gonna get my
And it's out
magnifying
there.
glass out then.
Yeah, but it's handwritten and stuff. Because I remember at that time I wrote all the lyrics with handwriting, with a ink pen and stuff like that. But back to the lyrics, yeah, it's kind of old school, a bit like in the vein of the Ulver album, let's say. But I remember I wrote them in my native language, which is like not the official Norwegian language, but more like this old school, a little bit reminiscent about the Viking language. Have a little bit of the same tonality to it, at least when talking. So it's pretty much the same. It's nothing, absolutely nothing, something bad in those lyrics or anything like that.
Okay.
That's not the reason why I'm holding it back. It's just because there is a reason why we swifted over to English at the second album, and I just didn't feel, to be quite honest, comfortable with the Norwegian language
Hmm.
in lyrical, because it was somehow limited me, I felt, in a sense. So again, I have to be honest about myself, and English has a broader, there's more words, there is more way there is more, yeah, I don't know, artistic way of using the English language than my old native dialect, so to speak.
Right.
So that is the reason why we shifted. But the lyrics is pretty much of the same kind of, what can I say? Yeah.
Okay.
The song Dowden, for example, this one of the songs is, I remember that's basically dealing about the Black Plague, the
Okay.
all over Europe in 1349 or whatever it was. So
Right.
it's kind of dealing with a little bit of this quite typical forest black metal back in the 90s kind of lyrics.
I'll go ahead and thank you again so much for joining me, and wish you guys the best with the new album and everything going forward.
Thank you, man, and thank you for the support and everything.
All right.
All
Thanks.
right,
Take
take
care.
care, man.